dark campaign-like speech last night, claiming former President Trump and his supporters pose an existential threat to the American way of life. This from a president who promised to be the so-called uniter-in-chief. But now, with the midterms just 67 days away, President Biden appears to have settled on a different strategy, one that is designed to divide the nation. Let's bring in David Bossie. He served as deputy campaign manager for the 2016 Trump campaign and is the co-author of the book Trump, America First. What happened to the inaugural address and Biden's claim to be the uniter-in-chief?
Yeah, it looked like Uncle Joe became Satanic Joe last night. That red, whoever came up with it at the White House, the red backdrop needs to be fired. This was unbelievable. It was one of the most mean-spirited, divisive speeches by an American president in our history. It was shocking to see the hate and vitriol dividing Americans. And really dehumanizing. That's the word I want to focus on. He talked about an entire segment of the American people. 75 million people voted for Donald Trump. Win, lose, have the debate. But you called 75 million Americans semi-fascists. This is not something that an American leader does. It's something that you saw in dictators in pre-World War II.
Now, he will say, no, I didn't call them all semi-fascists. There's there's a slice of them that I called semi-fascists.
Yeah, I don't buy it. Look, he wants to distract. This is part of his great distraction campaign. Last night was a campaign event. It wasn't a White House speech. It wasn't a presidential address. It was a political speech, and let's take it for what it is. Republicans across the country ought not be caught and be distracted by it. Let's stay focused, because Joe Biden does not want our candidates, our incumbents, our challengers, to be talking about the high violent crime rates, to be talking about open borders, the massive inflation. All the crises that the American people are feeling every single day are man-made crises, and that man's name is Joe Biden, and that's what we need to stay focused on.
Last night's speech did seem to be curiously devoid of any real policy prescriptions, but this idea of trying to make the midterms about President Trump, is that, rather than about Joe Biden,
sure,
is that an effective strategy for him?
Well, I first of all, they have to distract. That's their tactic, which is why my clarion call to Republicans is to stay focused on talking about Joe Biden and his disastrous policies of the last near 20 months now. He owns this record that is terrible for the American people. They are paying for it every single day at the gas pump, at the grocery store. Their kids being, tormented in school. We see the grades and the test scores being destroyed, CRTs in our schools. The Biden administration is playing to their base because they have to turn it out. That's what the student loan issue was about just this past week. We have one issue after another where Biden and his administration are playing to their base because they're scared of what's going to happen this November.
Yeah, when you look at his support among young people, I think 18 to 24 years old, he's down in the low double digits on that. He's got to do something to turn that around. He also said, David, this last night. Listen.
So I want to say this plain and simple. There is no place for political violence in America, period. None, ever.
I heard that, and I thought, well, maybe he wants to tell that to everybody who was tearing up American cities in 2020 and 2021, because there was no pushback against that. And in fact, many Democratic organizations were bailing those people out of jail.
Absolutely, and it still happens. Look, the violent crime epidemic that has just gripped every American city, large or small, since the Biden administration's come in, is because of the defund the police movement, the cashless bail movement that these prosecutors, that the left really has embraced. When the criminals are out of jail, before the victims are out of the hospital, that's a problem.
I want to put something up on the screen because I want to make a turn here to the midterms in terms of the Republican fortunes. Take a look at this graph as we put it up on the screen here. This is tracking over the months preference for Congress. And you can see that at one point, Republicans looked like they were headed for an almost 2010-like landslide victory. But as we get more and more toward where we are now, those numbers come closer together. I'm wondering why you think that is.
Well, first of all, the dog days of summer, have been upon us. And you see, you can't be up every single day. So politics is about ebbs and flows, pendulums swing back and forth. The last 60 days don't make the next 60 days, okay, John? So we're going to be focused on the policies of Joe Biden and the policies that we need to take over. But let me just give you a fact. On Election Day of 2020, the generic ballot was D+7, okay? Republicans picked up 14 seats. Today, right now, it is an R+1. That is an 8-point swing. So if we picked up 14 seats when it's a D+7, we're in good shape to win back the House. How big that majority is, no one knows until Election Day. But I got to tell you, if we stay focused on Joe Biden and his radical socialist agenda and trying to make the American people understand it's about Joe Biden and not the past, we're going to win big in November.
Our power rankings still have you taking control of Congress, though by a smaller margin than they did a couple of weeks ago. So